Welcome again to the second session. This is I didn't want to make yesterday's and Tuesdays and today's session as um, uh, as the actual lessons because it's a dark moon, and uh, let me give you a couple of minutes on maybe a minute on dark moon. When a moon is dark, it is observed that anything that you start will fall back. It won't have energy, it won't have power, it won't have life. It's short-lived. Eventually, it comes to an end without any yielding anything. So anything that is initiated within dark moon, which is the last three and a half days of the cycle of the moon. So which is like predominantly 27th, 28th, 29th, and maybe 30th. So these are dark days of the moon when moon is not receiving any energy or any light from the sun. So and moon is the trigger of the event. It generates it collects everything to initiate it. So it doesn't have that much strength. And throughout when we go on discussing anything like in astrology and palmistry or the knowledge of Haruf, we will be talking about powers, energy and the power that is works behind all these concepts. All these topics are pure energy and power. Um, so and we are measuring it in certain other ways, like in numbers or any properties or any outcomes or yield, whatever happens impacts, and it reacts to it, and then we measure that reaction. The dark moon. So this is why I wanted to start actual proper lecture from starting next Tuesday and Wednesday at the same time, 1 o'clock. So in these two sessions, I just wanted to discuss a general introduction of the subject and the background and some questions and answers that you may have. So I will still touch upon some basics. So since we are here, so it starts to make sense. So if you have this kind of a background, it's it starts to make sense as we start to cover. Um, and this is why, I mean, my students are like, uh, when they start up, all of a sudden, it's just like they're crawling, and all of a sudden they get up and start walking and running. Because the way I instill the basic information to make it like a story or just casual talking, so that you get familiar with all those things. Starting off with the heavy kind of a terminology, thick words, and complex interpretations. Um, it may take years and years for you to learn because it doesn't happen on a daily basis. So it becomes hard for you to just continue certain things. So I always try to make it very, very casual, literally very casual. I hardly use any real terminology, and sometimes people may look at this video and say, oh, what is he talking about? He's not using, a proper word for something, because if I use a term, that term may be accurate for the listener or watchers, but they have to get introduced to that kind of a term, and they should really know what it means. But anyway, so coming back, so I will start off like the other day in the lecture, there were some questions. So I promised that we'll start off with the question and answer, and then from there we'll pick up and we go, and then I will have a little introduction of the hand and the chart, and show you where you can go and what you can do. So preliminary, so you can go in, create your own profile, and see what's going on, and just get familiar, just like just getting used to everything. When you arrive in a new town, the weather is different, the behavior of the people is different. Everything is strange. But then it takes time, a little time before you start to get used to it. So it's just getting used to it. So this is how I'm going to introduce, so that when you come into the proper class, then most of it in actual. So when I say I use a proper term for anything, then it will make sense to you automatically, because it's being told in a very layman, very simple words. So okay. Any of you, first of all, any of you has any question?
No, thank you.
Okay. All right. No one has questions. So what I'm going to do is, first of all, let me share my screen, and I will show you the. All right. So that's my YouTube going streaming. So don't be bogged down with that. Okay. How do I get that thing down this side? And okay. All right. There is one. It's called astro.com. If you look at this, it's astro.com. Okay. Uh, Let me start off with a new. So you will go into your browser, type in astro.com. It's it is a website by Liz Green and her associates and very learned scholars. They have amazing amount of data. Amazing. You can Google anything you can search anything within their engine, their application. They offer you a free account. Um, you don't have to pay. You can save up to like I think 100 accounts, like your family and friends. You can create events. Uh, and they also send you because you put down your own date of birth and time and place of birth. So based upon that, they send you a general ballpark overview of your next month or the whole year or something like that. So you get some newsletter, but they don't bother you with too many emails. It happens on a very um, monthly basis, so it's okay. So you can read through those. Also, you can search for like any information in there, like ephemeris. Ephemeris is a calculation of planetary position um, um, on a certain date and time and certain location. Um, Tuesday, we discussed that there's a zodiac on the top, an imaginary circle, and that imaginary circle has 12 houses in it, or 12 mentions in it, and those 12 mentions, even though when we draw them in a picture or on a figure, we try to put down like 30 degrees, and I'll show you that what I mean. You can actually, if I go, the problem is I should have opened up well, I go to astro.com, and this is, I'm going to show you. I'm going to use, if you click on these like sun, moon, and Mercury, there are three symbols right on the top. And when I click on this, you see this drop-down menu comes in. It tells you what is the current position of each planet and some imaginary points and some fixed stars, which are very prominent and astrologers most commonly use as an impact um, within your personal scope or horoscope. And so it will list you the date on the top, what date it is, and currently it's using GMT. So when it uses the GMT, you will always calculated through your own current location. The best way to do is when you will you will create your own profile. It will when you create in a chart, then you can say, show me the current transits. So the transits will show up as like that. So eventually, when we get to that point, I'll show you that. But for now, it's telling you right now where the planets are in the sky. So one could be down south on the other side, which is sun. So every planet that we talk about in astrology, it has a rise and then a sun, a set. So just like a moonrise and moonset, and sunrise and sunset, same way Pluto rises and sets. It's just and that sunrise or sunset or moonrise, any planet rise and set is from the point where you are. It's in reference to you, but it is calculated based upon GMT or universal time, so that there's no confusion about the time. So everybody knows. So you can always, if you're in America, you can add 4 hours. If you're in India, Pakistan, you can subtract 5 hours or 5.5 hours. Or if you're in Middle East, you can do 2 to 3 or 4 hours, depending upon which country you are. Europe is mostly like 1 to 2 hours. So you can always. So the website is very nice. Any of these websites, they are very, very wonderful websites. As we go, we'll just talk about them. They have tremendous amount of data to teach you. It's a whole world. I mean, literally. I mean, it's so much. But I will try to teach you how to utilize information, because it's humanly impossible to remember all these things. Eventually, you will. You know, many people have very good memory, and they can, whatever they read, they can retain it and reproduce it. But my own mindset, or the way I do it, is I try to understand. This way I don't have to memorize. So so that, I think, is because it creates more of an insight and a vision, so something that you have not learned before. If you look at it, this jumps in, so it helps you to understand what is going on. So your general perceptions, your first instincts are much better than by not. So somebody has their video on. Can you turn off your video so you are not you're being recorded? So Sammy, hello, Sammy. No, he's that's not good. He's not. Okay? I was able to turn it off. Okay. All right. So these are the current planetary positions from a certain point. And then in this case, it is calculated from. Okay, so it look like okay. So and from our point of view, they are using universal time, which is GMT in London. As summertime is 1 hour off. Um, Even if you are in London, so if it's 12 o'clock and London time is 1 o'clock, so GMT may be 12 hours and 1300 hours in London, so it's 1 hour off, and then winter time they jump back. So just keep this is the slightly important information that will run when you do this one, calculating time of birth and date of birth. It is very, very important that you must have a correct date and time of a person that you are going to read. If you have a slightly wrong information, because the whole calculation depends upon when a person is born, at what time the person is, and where it is born, because then you pick up the planetary position at that particular moment in that particular geographical location. So the calculators can do that. All you have to do is just have a date of birth and time and place of birth. They must be very accurate. And you must ask a question. As you learn astrology, you will see that you have certain events that will be you will quickly pick up from charts. Some charts are very, very strong, and they, for example, first house Jupiter, for example, my favorite. First house Jupiter is like, you can always say, yeah, if an ordinary person comes to you who has no strength, is poor, or doesn't have a good job, no good education, and has a first house Jupiter, you should be questioning that. And it's not that it may be wrong. Maybe something has not happened yet, but it still is a questionable thing. So looking at the chart, having a very energetic person where the person's Mars is in a fall and water sign fall, those kind of things, So this will, so you will, as you pick up, then you can match like the Tuesday I said, you can look at a person and you can determine what is the personality of the person, is how strong the person looks, what are the facial features, angry man, happy man, jolly good fellow, serious, religious kind of a person. You can tell by looking at them. It's a general study. You don't have to be an expert to make create an opinion or a perception or judge a person's personality by the looks. This is how you develop yourself. We learn to look at other people and translate, and other people reflect how they are by what they do. So you can draw that. And okay, coming back, let me just stick to the topic. Okay, so what you do is, on the very bottom of this astro.com, when you click on these three planets, which is Sun, Moon, and Mercury, the three symbols, and you click on that, this comes, and I say, chart the moment, okay? Chart of the moment. What is happening right now? So what it has done is, it has actually created all right, so let me enlarge it. Okay, so now we have a chart in front of us. On the top left, it says name, chart of the moment. That's the name. It just, you can put down your friend's name or whatever, whoever the chart belongs to. Then what date it is. It's Thursday. TH is Thursday, 4th of July, 2024. And this is in Lahore, Pakistan. Now, because it picked up my birth from Lahore, Pakistan. So it's looking at it that I'm trying to, it's my profile. It's cached in, like websites are cached in. I didn't want to show like, because I have some personal data in there, so I didn't want to show it. Okay, so but it still picks up my information here. But you can actually go in there and change that location. And I'll show you subsequently, because right now it would be too confusing. Okay, so this is the chart. This is a modern chart, a circle. It's not very old. In old fashioned, they used to draw a square. Okay, let me, if I can see my, let me go in there and share my mobile phone. Screen, and there I have all right, plenty of things here. My problem is, I now work on my mobile phone. Most of my stuff is there, and this is like laptop that I have is very little stuff, and I try to make sure that I have transferred everything. So I was in the middle of transferring and it was taking forever, even though it's like a very good connections. Okay, so I go and share. My screen, start now. All right, can you see my screen, mobile screen? Let me see.
Yes, we can see the screen.
I mean that the other screen that I just showed on the mobile?
No.
Okay, uh, so maybe what I need to do is allow. Yeah, it's allowed. And I'm sharing, I don't know, it's too much technology and incompatibility. Maybe I have to stop sharing here and see if I can. Oh, yes. Okay. So there were two sharing. So I just have to get used to, eventually we do. All right. So this is my mobile screen. And then I have a some, all this kind of stuff in my, all right. So this is the one I'm talking about. In old days, they used to make a chart like this, a rectangular, and then they divide it into 12 parts. And Vedic is also like this. Now, on this chart, there are four directions. So there are several kind of different people use different direction. It doesn't matter really, because eventually you put them sequentially into their own within their own, like if a planet is in Cancer, then they put down that planet in Cancer. So no matter where it is, so and where you put down your starting point on a chart is called ascendant. It's a rising sign. It's everything, like I was explaining. Everything rises and everything sets. Now going back on my screen. All right, so I'm going back on my screen here. Can you see now? Back to my screen? Okay. All right, there you are. Right, now I can see. All right, so now on this one, if you look at, can you see my cursor? Yeah, right here. On the left side, it says AC. AC means it's an ascendant, okay? That's where sun in the morning, where the sun rises. So what, if you see the chart is divided into four parts. A vertical line right in the middle and a horizontal line right in the middle. And there's a little tiny circle in the middle, right? The tiny circle is representative, is like Earth. Okay, so remember on the Tuesday we said we are in heavens. Imagine you are in the sky, space, heavens, wherever you are, and if you look down to the Earth, and right in the middle is the Earth, and then and it's the image has like inverted. So instead of right being east being on the where it says DC on the right side, that's west. And where it says on the left side, it says AC, that's east. So that and MC on the top is still so when you invert this one, the directions will change. So now you're looking at north and south, inverted north and south, and east and west. So and you have it makes it MC at 4 points is a very strong points that we consider in astrology. So the beginning AC, ascendant, where every planet comes, rotates as zodiac rotates, and within 24 hours, 2 hours, it gives every house, every sign, because there are 12 signs in one zodiac. in the sky. So it takes 2 hours to complete this rotation, and then the next rises, and the next rises, and next rises. So in the beginning, what happens is right now in this particular chart, um, Pisces is ending. There's that blue sign on the top, slightly on the left side, where AC says the blue sign is a sign of Pisces. And then there's Aries that is rising, and within that inside is a sign of Neptune and Pluto and Chevron and Node. These are, you will get used to them. Don't be worried about these things. You will have to get used. I'm just giving a general introduction, so you don't have to remember any of these. Just play around, and you will get slowly and gradually you'll get used. Still, sometime when you're preoccupied, it happens. Oh, what was it? Okay. Sometimes they draw a circle, which is okay. Please go ahead, Shella.
Your screen is not sharing on the Zoom, but I can see it on the YouTube.
Oh, okay. Which one you're seeing then?
I'm seeing the circle and the
That's the one I'm sharing. Yes.
yeah, but here
In the Zoom, you're unable to.
on the
Okay, let
Zoom,
me.
it's your cell phone
I can.
only.
Excellent. Okay. What I do is I'll stop. I think it doesn't share the two, so I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, there you are. Now you should be seeing.
Yes,
Okay.
I can see it here now.
Okay. All right, excellent. All right, so okay, on the left side here, you can see that on the left side it says AC. Okay, so that's the point. This is horizon. Okay, imagine this is horizon where you are, just like you're standing outside early in the morning, and the sun is rising. Okay, so you see the rays of the sun approaching, and that's where it's happening. AC. Okay, so every planet rises and travels on the top, and the other side where DC is, that's where it's going to set. So it ends. So for the people who are underneath, underneath this circle, the below the horizon in the middle line, anything there is dark, is nighttime. Anything above is the daytime. So wherever you are, when you draw a chart, it always is that from that point that whatever is on the top is the day, and the other side is the night. So therefore, this is a complex calculation that old people used. That's why they were very, very good at mathematics. So they could do mental math or physical math, but they were calculating this. Sometimes I believe that this is not worked on math because it's too much, especially in very early, like thousands of years ago when they were calculating all this. And then I wondered, people didn't even know that Earth was flat, the Earth was round, or sky was, planets were moving. So sometimes we hear those myths. Sometimes it's hard to believe. Um, I have a question. Okay, so it's always on the left it rises, and then on the right side it on the west is right, so it sets there. So all the planets one by one, all the signs in this circle, they turn around clockwise, and they set on the right side, and then all night they travel and come back and rise again. Okay, so daytime and nighttime. So half of the chart will always be daytime, and half of the chart will always be nighttime. The planets, which are natural ruler of the day, if they are in the night, they become weaker. Anything in the opposite domain, the concept in astrology is something that is its own domain is naturally strong. It's happy, it's joy. That's where its comfort is reflects its own properties. So if a nocturnal, what we call it, nocturnal or diurnal. Now I'm using technical language. So if you have a planet which is the day planet, and it falls into the night area, at the time of birth or at any other time. Maybe you're using the charts for any other purpose. So anytime sun is below the horizon, in this case, let's say assume that we are talking about sun. So if sun is from left from AC all the way to the other side, DC, on the top of the circle, it's a daytime. Sun rules, sun is happy, sun is strong, and whatever it goes through, it impacts it. On the other hand, if the sun was underneath, which is night, let's say it's actually night in certain countries, like let's say it's definitely night in Japan and Australia and all that. So sun is set there, and the sun is above the horizon right now. I can see it's a daytime. So any planet that is ruling on the top during the daytime, in the event that the planets that are in the daytime, they are stronger planets. They are receiving energy, sun's rays, so they reflect more properties. Something that has set is underneath, they are weaker. Everything in the chart has the common concept of philosophy of being male or female, night and day, and the polarity. In general word, there's a polarity in it. So there will always be polarity. There will always be negative and positive, day and night. You just name it, anything. So a lot of people use different kind of terms. So that's why I'm not sticking to the terms, because you will be reading books, and as we go, we start to get into the actual lesson one by one, then we start to use terminology at that point. So it should be very clear by now that this circle, then there are several type of charts. Because it's an imaginary line, like on Tuesday I said, the globe is just like a ball. Okay, it's just a globe. So some people, Sammy, can you please turn your video off? Sammy, can you turn your video off, please? Yeah, thank you. Because you are being streamed on the YouTube, so I mean, in a personal, I don't mind. But okay, so going back. So globe.
Apology from my side. That
No,
was
no,
unintentional.
you don't have to. It's okay. You didn't realize. Okay, so we took the globe, and there were trees and oceans and mountains and homes and countries and villages, cities. So we started measuring it. We wanted to have a reference. So we started. Scientists came up with an idea of all right. So let's draw lines on it. So they became longitudes and latitudes and as the references. So they picked an imaginary point, which was GMT. And they started off from there. And in the middle of the circle, they created a big circle, which is equator. And actually, if you take a globe or a ball and you take any point and draw a line around it, it's going to be a great circle. Anyway, so any circle as long as it's in the right in the middle, it's not like on the edge of the ball, on the bottom of the ball, where it's a smaller circle. It goes through the middle or anywhere. Technically speaking, they're all great circles. But because we start off with a great circle and then start to divide the Earth as we go to the North Pole and on the other, below the equator towards the South Pole. So they circle the kind of, just like the tip of the ball, then because now we have determined direction. But if there was no direction, there was no measurement, then any circle, no matter where you start and where you end, it's going to be a great circle. So we divided the Earth and we'd say, okay, this is an arbitrary circle, and we'll call it a great circle, and anything else will measure from here. And same way we see the vertical line. So this is where you see, if you look at this zodiac chart, you see there are two lines, sorry, vertical and which is, in other words, y-axis and x-axis. So there are two axes. So, and then we start to measure. And then we say, oh, okay, it's a circle, because now we can draw it as a circle. And then when it's a circle, we can divide it into degrees and minutes and seconds, or whichever division you want to use. So we just decided to draw 360 points around the circle to make it a circle. And then we said, okay, there are 12, 12 zodiac mentions, Aries and Taurus and Gemini, Cancer and Leo, Virgo, Libra and Scorpio, Sagittarius, Capricorn, Aquarius, and Pisces, the 12 houses. So we said, okay, let's divide the circle into 60 equal parts. Okay. So this day we are doing it on a day where the day and night are equal. There are 2 points in the whole year when a day and night are equal. 21st of now, we are just going through the longest days in the summer on the North Pole. South Pole is the smallest because it's inverse, remember. So we are talking about the Northern Pole, Northern Hemisphere, what we call the northern part of the globe, Northern Hemisphere is the longest day. In the longest day, if you look at this chart, you see underneath, leaving the signs on the AC. AC, you see prolonged. These signs are slightly bigger, and on the very right side where it says DC, similarly they are bigger. The two. But on the bottom where it says IC, and on the top where it says MC, you'll see that they're squeezed. They are not the same size. It is because the change in the daytime and nighttime, because the nights are smaller, and then when you divide them into equal parts, their part are smaller. They're still 30 degrees, but they're squeezed. And the same way in summer, it's still half of the 6 signs, and then they are elongated. They're still 30 degrees, but they are elongated. It means in astrology, it means if they are elongated, it will take more time. If they're shrunk, they're squeezed, things happen too quickly. So when things happen, so this is like if we are managing an event, we are looking at the events, how things are happening. So it will longer, and it will naturally, if it's a bigger house, as things are happening in a longer, it's covering the more area of the circle. If you can see at AC and DC, those two signs on the left and those two signs on the right, they are actually occupying more area of the same circle. So daytime, summer, days are very long, and nights are short. And in summer, it's the same thing. And on the other side of the globe, it's the opposite of it. And who's this, Shala or Shala? You can turn off your video. Hello? Shala, can you turn off your video, please? Thank you. All right. So, Srabya, I'm sorry. Pardon me, it was Rabia. Okay. So anyway, so days, longer days, shorter nights on the other side. If the nights are shorter, the days are longer on the other side. So it means a planet can stay longer in that domain. So sometimes that's like waiting, just to make a sense out of it. Like you're waiting, the 5 minutes sometimes seem like, oh, the train is not coming, train is not coming. 5 minutes feel like an hour, or maybe a day. So when you have an anxiety, a state of mind, where you lose your perception of time, and you see, okay, why it's not. When you are in a hurry, like driving, when you are in a hurry and you're getting late, so it looks like the traffic has stopped, and people are blocking you, and you want the whole road to yourself. That's the state. It's just the feeling that changed, the perception that changed, how you feel. So when you have a longer things, which are not actually longer, but they feel like that. See how we can start to interpret these things. Okay. So anyway, just touch one is in basic introduction. So you can see that all these planets, you should see inner circle, inside of the circle where the colored lines are not, those are aspects. I'm sorry, I couldn't change it because I have configured it such so I want to see with in a glass there are like these, you see those blue lines and the red lines, these are references to each other, you know, which planet is how far and what kind of aspect it's making. And there are planets that are connected to each other, like in the same place. We called it conjunct. They are like met each other. They are in the. They may not actually be in the same, but if you're because everything is happening from your reference point, you are the person who is actually a reference point, and then whatever you look from there, and you see there may be, for example, in if this is two hands from your point now, there is conjunction, right? Because even though if you I say there is a difference, right? There's a gap, right? And they are not, but they are in the altitude, latitude, or in the longitude. If they come into the same point, you know, so if you see, they're different latitudes, right? This is maybe let's say 40-degree latitude, and this is 50-degree latitude, right? And this is an outer planet, this is an inner planet, and they come across, just like the two planes fly in the space. So they come. So if you are looking from down and up to the space in the sky, and you'll see two planes coming in, merging in, and you may say, oh, maybe they are going to strike to each other, but there's a 10,000 feet difference in, there's a gap between them. So, but if you look from your own perspective, if they were in the sky and like this, so now you will see them merged. Okay, you will see them. They are this is, in astrology we call it conjunction. You know, they because one covers the other. So if I had a torch in my hand and I put light. Okay, so this is the light. Okay, so this is the light. So now let's say this is one planet and this is another planet. Okay, this planet comes and covers it. Right, it's passing through. Right. Well, what happens? That light disappears. So this planet doesn't have much of an impact on you, right? It's not, it's reflecting the energies, but it's not coming to you. So dark moon is when moon comes around and it it's receiving. See, this is moon and it receives the light. And as light comes, the moon covers, it becomes one and it becomes dark. It's not receiving any light, it's not throwing it. It may be right directly underneath it and not receiving it. And this is actually, there's no in reality there's no time when moon is not receiving unless it's opposite, like there's a what we call it solar eclipse or lunar eclipse, when two objects one object comes between the two bodies and then actually stops the light from going. So sun, this is the moon, this is the sun, and there's the earth in the middle. So then earth is blocking the light of the sun to fall onto the moon. That's where moon actually goes dark. Otherwise, moon never gets dark. It's the reflection that we have. So the light comes from one side and reflects and come to you. So it will always, remember, you are the key point. You are looking at the world from your point and you're seeing a moon. A moon will be, maybe it's a full moon, maybe it's in Australia. You are in France or London. You're in London and moon is in Australia. It's right directly above Australia. Naturally, you can't see it. So you can't see it. It's not reflecting any light. It's not, its lights are not reaching you. For you, it's dark. Okay? It's for you, it's dark, or for you, it's set. Maybe darkness is too kind. So, well, it's because it's not receiving any light at all, or it's that it's not visible to you because of an obstruction. So for that purpose, any planet, applied on any planet that you can't see, you cannot receive the light, it's not impacting you. And now we are getting into like astrological interpretation, because you're not receiving light, so you're not having much of an impact. So when it's a daytime, and the planets are above the horizon, as we say, they rise and they set. So you will see that rising signs start with a strength, like you get up in the morning. I'm now talking in a very layman language. So you get up in the morning, you had a very nice, good night's sleep. There were no disturbances. So you rise, you're a happy person, you will be very active, you'll have a great breakfast and cup of tea or coffee. And then you go on to work, you say hi to everyone, you're a jolly good fellow, right? Any planet can actually act like that, right? So, on the other hand, a person had a very bad sleep, and slept very badly because he went to the bed, maybe he ate too much, and his stomach was working too much, and or maybe he was mad or thinking or doing something. It went in the condition of mental stress, and when it wakes up, it also wakes up with the stress. Now, how do we translate that? Okay, so Mars, for example, Mars is a fire sign, fire planet. Okay, so it goes into a water sign in element point of view. So fire and water are enemies in natural common sense, right? So if you have a fire, you put water on it, the fire goes away. It puts off. But if fire is strong and too strong and you put water on it, it evaporates. It heats up, evaporates. So one of them will and how we translate that kind of a water that evaporates, and we say, oh, it's emotionality. We translate it into emotionality when it comes to chart. So now you were like, if you have a Mars that is very strong in your chart, and we will evaluate that eventually. So a strong Mars and just happens to be in a very bad position in current. These are current planets that I was talking about. This chart. So in this position, a Mars is very bad, and in your chart, you have a very strong Mars. So now your strong Mars, you are feeling stressed, and you went to the bed stressed, and you get up stressed. So it's like many things. So again, the life starts with ascendant. The power and energy starts with the ascendant, where it says AC on the left side of the chart. So all the planets rise, they enter into the 12th house. Things are hidden. All the houses. If some of you are watching those video links that I sent you, you may be familiar with some of the terminology or some of the houses and signs and planets, and you will. Okay, so somebody. Okay. So you will see that all those signs, when they go through one by one, all those planets that travel across your circle and the impact. So it's like a clock, like the hands of a clock. So it's 12 o'clock, 1 o'clock, and then it keeps moving. This chart moves like that exactly. All these in the inner circle, where you see those planets, and then in the outer circle you see the signs, like Aries and Taurus and Gemini and all those. You see those symbols of the houses, and then in the inner circle there are planets. It's just we put down that way so that it's easy to understand. And within the smaller circle inside, we have lines. Those lines, blue and green. Some people have green lines. Some people have yellow lines. They're different. They will give you a legend how to interpret it. So in that chart, it shows that by a glance at an apparent look, the moment you see, oh, you know what, there's so many tensions, which planet is what, and if it's conflicting. So and that's the circle, that information that gives you a visual. On the bottom, there's a chart, there's a figure. In that chart, in that figure, what you're doing is it's telling you exact degrees where all the planets are on the very bottom. This one, I see. Yeah. this one here, okay? So what it does is here that you have on the top left, you have Sun, and it says Sun is in Cancer, and it is at 13th degree. Okay. Now remember, this is the position from Lahore, Pakistan, and so never forget that what reference point you are. So your imaginary, right? Everyone right now who's following me is present in Lahore at the time of my birth. Okay. And this is the current position right now. You're in Lahore. These are the position of the planets right there. So that calculation of these planets, where they are at any given point and given time and given location, is called ephemeris. These are astrological bodies, astro bodies, planets or stars, and wherever they are, in anywhere in the sky. This is a book, and on this website you will get that ephemeris free. They'll give you in a PDF format. You can go back 1400 years ago and see what were the planets at that time in a given time. So if you know that, okay, the prophet was saying prayers, it was summertime, then summertime, sunrise, and then you can actually visual in the circle over here. You can actually say on the top, when it says MC, on the very top of the circle where it says MC, when sun is there, it's a noon. It's a noon time. It's like actually when you see sun rises, goes up, and this is noon, and then it sets, right? So if you have to say somebody was born at 12 o'clock in the daytime, that's where the sun should, your planets and stars should reflect that time at that point in that particular position. In this case, if you look at the bottom of the circle, there's a sun, which is a small circle, and there's a next to is hilal, like crescent. Moon is in the form of crescent. It's the bottom under where AC says. Right next to the right side of his sun. And so sun is in Cancer, the two commas type of thing. Like, in Urdu, Arabic is Peish, and it's commas or apostrophe, quotes, whatever you want to say, and they make it more little kind of shape. So that's a sign of Cancer. Okay, so you can reflect that sun was when I'm born in July. If I say I'm born in July, and so date, today is 4th of July, and it reflects that the sun should be because sun enters every sign around middle of the month, something like that. You can see by approximation that right now sun is in the middle, so it will change its sign into Leo around 19th or 20th, and this date keeps changing. Some people have an idea that sun enters into every 21st of the month. And yeah, if you were looking at the original when this whole thing started, remember we said we assumed that all the days and nights are equal. That means you are on the winter and fall equinox. So we're on the 21st of April, March, sorry. The day and night, the day starts to increase and night starts to decrease. So that's springtime. So we usually have springtime dated as 21st of March, April. Officially, it's 21st, but in actuality, it may be 20, it may be 2019. These days fluctuate according to the solar position, the solar movement, and signs and all those rest of the factors included. That date will continue to change. It depends how elongated and short and those are, and sun moves. It's a leap year. All those calculations happen, and then they determine when a sign. So your actual spring may start a day early or 2 days early these days. Because I'm not saying it because I didn't. I've been so busy I didn't even notice what date is. But I can find out in a second. You can type it on a Google and say when the sun entered Aries, and it will give you exact date and time. But these are the information that are like abundantly and very confidently available. Okay. And imagine never be bogged down with the seconds and minutes, because there will always be an error depending upon what kind of a calculator you're using, what kind of a programming language they have been using, what kind of a device you have. So based upon those, sometimes people just omit fractions. They only use minutes, degrees, and they do not consider minutes or seconds. So they just go by degree. So somebody may be saying 1.2 degrees. And for other, it may be because it's 1.2, it may be the next integer, which is 2. So they would say, oh, the sun is at 2 degrees. And you say, no, sun is at 1 degree. But actually, it's not 1, it's 1.2, 1.3, 1.4. Sometimes people, they take the whole number after, it's like 1.5 is the 1, and 1.6 is 2. So this is going to play a little game in calculation. But they are so minute, so it doesn't. At this point, it doesn't make any difference. But if you are calculating a disaster by the second, then probably you can. And this information is still available. But then again, it never is accurate, because when it comes to, but on the paper you can do accuracy, but in actuality, that theoretical calculation and practical calculation, it may not be the same, because it is always there's no, I think, because all these signs and everything is an imaginary. So we took a starting point. So that's why sometimes they have to adjust over the time. Remember, they have to. This is why we have several calendars, because every time they found something and they try to adjust. Like sun is not exactly 365 days, right? There's a fraction. That's why we have a leap year. So they correct every 4 years. They correct that circle. So there are like those minute, but we ignore it on in normal life. We don't care that fraction exists. But for the purpose of calculation, it is there. So this ephemeris, this is published. So you can use them in this chart that I'm showing you. When you log on, all of this happens in the background. So you don't have to worry about it when and where. You just feed the profile that you're creating, its name. Is it an event or a person? They ask you that because then they give you on the bottom, they give you certain introductory, complimentary takeaways. Like, oh, okay, this is somebody's cancer. Okay, this is good. It's going to be a good month for you, or this good year for you. Those kind of little, so that they can force you to, if this turns out to be a good interpretation, maybe you become a member and you pay them. So it's okay. You're using their website as a free, that's fine. And and if you're impressed by their interpretations, you can actually subscribe to them. But it's not mandatory, it's free. So they are doing these complex kind of a calculation behind the scene, where the planets are. And once you have determined that one, then everything else works with the formulas. So once we determine that GMT, Greenwich in London is the center point of the Earth, which it is not. But because the universities were flourishing, science and physics and every knowledge was flourishing. So London was, the kingdom was a kingdom where the sun never set, because they captured, they colonized the whole, more than half the globe. So they scientists and they used GMT as a means to measure everything, which is fine. They gave us a great knowledge. They gave us a great reference points. And it doesn't matter where it starts, but it's all imaginary. So we start time from there, we start any movement from there, we measure the Earth and the globe from there. So this is what we are looking at right now in this circle. and then those complex calculators started creating. They went on the, just like, you have axis. So you have an axis which is two axes that is left and right. So you go from the negative side. So you are taking x-axis. The x-axis is plus sign and then a negative signs. So once you start, let's say you start off with the calculation today, and then you calculate future. Same way you can go back and calculate the past. So you can go back in ephemeris. You can go. Let's say you want to find out what happened on the 10th of Karbala and what was the planets like. So you can pick that. If you can actually accurately translate Islamic calendar into the solar calendar, you can match. You can actually go back on that day and see what the planets were like, or any king was born, and any big event that happened in the past. You can actually go back and if the time of the event, date and time was recorded, you can always draw a chart for that event and then figure out what happens. Like, the 4th of July, today is America's Independence Day. So they wrote the Constitution, and the new beginning happened in America. So they took it as the birthday. It's actually your. Just 1 second. Can you pause for 1 second? Okay, yeah, just 1 second. I have someone at the door. I just want to pause for 1 second, and I'll be right back. All right, I'm back. So, all right, so you can go back and do any calculation and just put down time, place, and then you have a chart. You will see all those lines and placements of the planets in different areas. And then when we look at this chart, we have a relative position of each planet. And each location is or mansion. Different people use different kind of a sign. When this clock, so ideally speaking, this was a 0 clock. Okay, so imagine that on the ascendant AC side, everything is happening at the sunrise. The sun is at this point. It's a spring day, and Nowruz that happens in the Central Asia, Iran and Afghanistan and Central Asia. They heavily celebrate Nowruz. That's the day they say the sun threw its first light on the earth, and that's one of the interpretations or the stories behind that. Life began with the sun on the ascendant, on the AC, and ascendant, which means rising. So sun rose, and then it started to travel. All the planets started to travel, and they were traveling actually, but we are just supposing that this is what it is, the beginning point. So they started moving, and then as soon as the clock started, imagine these 12 houses were there, and they were fixed. So we have a first image where everything is static and never moved. So we have 12 divisions, equal day, night, which is on the 21st. At that time, everything was, at the beginning, everything was, the day and night were equal. Sun was on ascendant, on horizon, rising, coming out of the dark into the sun and into the day. So then having all those equal signs, that will never change because that's an original image. We call them house. This is important. So the first clock that you look at is called the chart, the birth chart or event chart, horoscope, give any language or you come across, So then that original is where all the signs are equal. We take it on the great circle where everything is equal, and then every house is 30 degrees, because 360 divided by 12 is 30 degrees. So with 30 degrees, every house is neat and cleanly equal 30 degrees, and that's the basic impression. So we keep that image all the time in all the charts, the fundamental. Then as time started, all these clocks started moving. Okay, so this is original. This is the original zodiac or chart, and then this is we start, and then time started, and then an imaginary circle started moving around. Okay, so those signs started moving. So Aries moved, and on the left side, and went to the next house, which is Pisces. So now we have a mix of Aries and Pisces. Right? And this house takes 2 hours. Aries, when it moves degree by degree, and then goes around in 24 hours. So that means there are 12 signs, 24 hours. Every sign rules at what? 2 hours. Right? It makes sense. So you have a house that started moving, so we call it a house or and then as that became a sign when as moved, just to differentiate, okay, between the two, one static circle and then the moving circle on top. How do we say one is? They're actually the same. It's just like in the movies you see that this a body and the soul comes out of this one. So how do you define it? Is that the real one or this is the real one? So we just say, oh, okay, it's an image or whatever you want to call it. So one circle is fixed, and then it starts to move, and then whatever moves, say, okay, let's call them sign, for example. Or you could call them anything. I mean, it's just we gave them. It's an all imaginary thing. I don't want you to get bogged down what I am saying or somebody else is saying. It's just a concept that should be clear. Okay, remember. So what you're doing is that you are taking that same circle and started moving. And now you have to differentiate in your mind that this house was fixed, and on the top it started moving. There's like mix, just like two colors. So the top circle that started moving, the Aries went into the 12th house. Okay, so the houses start from reverse order. So clock starts from clockwise, as you can see to the right, clockwise. The original signs, they are fixed they are read on the left side. For example, on the left side, on the AC, you have Aries, and then on the next house is Taurus, and then they go anti-clockwise to the other side. All right. So we have a fixed. So you want to measure from here or there, doesn't matter actually. But when you start to move, they are going against each other. Whereas when they are going against each other, so we start to read them other way and the other way. So when we create an image, we have a static image underneath, and then we have a moving image on the top. So we see, okay, the one that they're going anti-clockwise, and that's one that is moving is going clockwise, opposite directions. So when it happens, when it moves clockwise, and the let's say Cancer, Sun is in the Cancer right now, it will remain there for 30 days, right? It entered into the first degree to the last degree. It will remain. Sun will remain in Cancer, and Sun will remain in any sign for 30 days, right? So for 30 days, it constantly moves. While it moves 1 degree, so Sun travels 1 degree every day. So it moves for 30 days, it moves 30 degrees and goes into the next sign. So today, between now and tomorrow, at the same time, the Sun will have moved on 1 degree in the zodiac. So, but at the same time, there's that whole yeah, it's just like you are in a bus. It's a nice example. In a train, for example, you are going in a train, and train is moving at 70 miles an hour, okay, or 100 kilometers an hour if you use kilometers. So, but you sitting in the train, in relation to the train, you are not moving, right? You're static. But from the external point of view, from the people who are not in the train, you are moving at 70 miles or 100 kilometers, right? So you're moving. But inside the train, you are not moving. You're standing. You're sitting in your car, in your chair. You're maybe a dining table and reading, and you're enjoying the scenery outside. You see things move from the window, but you are static as compared to where that in the domain, in the compartment, the car of the train that you are in, right? So same way, when these signs are moving, in reference to the chart, the sign moves in 24 hours. So a sun goes out and 24 hours later comes back to the same point. But now in that circle, in one day, it has moved 1 degree. So slowly and gradually, sun is moving, while sun is moving 1 degree in that sign, in the Cancer, the chart has moved around 30 times, 24 hours, one time, and in 30 days, 30 times. So within that, while sun keeps moving slowly, 1 degree at a time, the zodiac goes around and completes. So this way, the sun and the signs will have a different impact. That's where the beauty comes. Just like going around in a circle, like you're doing charity, for example. So there are several places where you have different kind of people who need charity. So you go to one person, that person needs food, so you provide the food. The next person needs clothing, you go to the next person and you give them clothing, and so on and so forth. So when sun moves, sun acts differently. It's a personality, it's life, it's your vigor, your power, your energy, how you set out to be to appear on others. So this way, what happens is that sun moves around and it impacts every house which is static, and it's in the Cancer. So Cancer, sun, and wherever at the time that these two are, they're moving in this great circle. Wherever the Cancer is, for example, Cancer comes on the Pisces. They're both water sign, right? So that's water element, this water. I'm just picking up just general. So one water sign, the other water sign comes on, it is more emotions, right? And then you have a moon in it, for example. Moon is a lord of the Cancer. It's more, it has a emotional value. It is your emotion, sensitivity, your the part that where you have there are feelings. Okay, so now given and these are friendly, water and moon are friends. So moon is very strong when it comes to the water. This controls water. We know the moon. We know everybody knows that on a full moon it controls the oceans and all that, right? High tide and all that. So the moon and the water, they are very friendly, and so moon gets stronger, and the water it gets joy. So they're both very happy together. So if you water sign and water, on the static sign, which is house, for this purpose, house, and then sign comes on water, and there's a moon in it. Oh, it's a very good placement. It's very, so you can, by just normal logic, you can say, okay, if this is this is the home, everybody feels home. Like you are right now, you are in your home, you may be in your pajamas and just looking at the TV, relaxing, listening to me. Yeah. So this way, your feelings will change. So same way if it's fire for fire, right? Air for air. Air is the thoughts and that things that fly, which is mostly is associated with your thinking power. Fire with your emotions, the strength, your energy, same as like similar to sun. Sun is more like personality and more who you are. Mars is what it gives you more energy and on an actual energy level, like being if you are like pure. If your chart has a very strong Mars, maybe you will be a surgeon, maybe you will be a military man or athletic or something. It gives you people who really are very strong, need a lot of energy. Mars does that. right? Just like the other day I was talking about Jupiter, what Jupiter does. If you have a strong Jupiter, Jupiter is going to give you a luck by action. Luck by action means if you play lotto, only then you will not win. No matter how great Jupiter you have in your chart, you are not lucky unless you go and play lotto or unless you go do something. So it's action, action is related to, and I've seen that all those people who have a very strong Jupiter in their chart, they're restless. They work very hard. They are like, and same is true about the people who have their Mars in. So now you have to start differentiating between the two powers and two energies that make you very, very, okay? Now we are talking about more opportunities, more thinking power, ethics, because that's where it's related to Jupiter, because it's a lord of ninth house, which is more like religion, jurisprudence, law, ethics, those kind of things. So it rules that. And then it's luck and travel, long term. There are several, interpretations of one house or sign or law that they rule hundreds of things at the same time. And which I shared in the group last night, like saying, okay, this is Mercury, this is Jupiter, and there's so many things listed under it. Any of those things can happen. And then it becomes complex, at that point where you're looking at moon and sun in opposition, the full moon and opposition. What kind of conflict they're creating. So now you're looking in the middle of the chart, you see those planets they are in relation to each other. So they are like, one is across each other, one is in there. So I'm in your home, for example. You are my enemy. How would I feel in your home? What you will feel in my home? Stress, right? Because we'll be agitated. But if you're in a friend's home, your mom's home, your siblings' home, you'll feel much joy. You'll feel more at comfort. You may not hesitate to go open up the refrigerator and get a drink out of it, or go and eat your own food from the kitchen. You feel like at home. Even if it's your sibling or friend's home, but it's the comfort level is there. So you have to see those friendships in the friendship mostly from the element point of view, mostly. Okay. And then the core rulerships, half of the planets, they co-rule each other, right? For example, Mars is the lord of the Aries, the first house. At the same time, Mars is the lord of the Scorpio, the eighth house, right? So it depends how you're interpreting it, and we will look at it when we go into that detail. But and moon and sun are the only one that rule one sign. Sun rules Leo, and moon rules Cancer. Right? But its significance is when it enters into the 21st into the Aries, where the whole thing starts. But then it becomes irrelevant. Once it triggers that clock on the 21st of, I don't know, a million years ago or 10 million years ago, whenever they started, this whole system started, and that's where sun was found on 21st, and it entered into that. From our purposes, astrology purposes. So but by qualities, we said, oh, wait a minute, we didn't give Sun Aries, because Aries stands for something else, even though it's very close, because it's self. First house is self. But we gave it to Leo, first of all, for other purposes. And again, it becomes a very, very advanced level, deep interpretation. But just to touch upon, the sun becomes the lord of the Leo. The moon, they have only one lordship. They only rule one sign. But the rest of them, they rule two. For example, Mercury. First I gave you Mars, now Mercury. Mercury rules the third house, which is Gemini, as well as sixth house, which is Virgo. And then you have Venus. Venus rules second house of Taurus and the seventh house of Libra, right? Then we have Jupiter. Jupiter rules the ninth house primarily, which is Sagittarius, as well as Pisces. Okay, some people now are trying to, astrologers, they are studying to separate them, give co-rulership to others or something. There's a lot of studies going on. Again, that's an advanced subject. But the knowledge has just begun. We have got sophisticated calculators and observations. We have data. We are making more discoveries. It's becoming very powerful subject. It's not an easy subject, but for our purposes, if you know the shape of the hand, you know the person. So we'll keep it to that point where, at this point, where you can just, by looking at hand, you can interpret a person's personality. And by looking at a chart, you should be able to say if it's a good chart, strong chart, what is happening in a very layman, you know, words in concept that that three things. So you have a fixed houses, a chart which is fixed, and then you are moving on the top imaginary circle that keeps moving with the clock. So as it blends, so one thing, and then the blending of other, and then the blending of the planet within it. Imagine. So you have to do three tasks. Understand which house it is. For example, it's the first house. The first house has like me, personal ego, your power, your reasoning, also in a certain point, um, and how people perceive you. Yeah, just maybe the more probably. When people look at you, they create a kind of an impression about you. That's your first house. When people look, if you're aggressive, they find you aggressive, annoying, charming, pleasant, whatever. The first impression people look at you and they say it comes from the first house, right? Now, let's say you happen to have a moon in Cancer, and your chart had just happened to have moon in Cancer, and then moon, that Cancer falls on the first house. Moving, you were born at the time when accidentally Cancer was the first over the first house, and then in a clockwise movement, it was going through, and imagine you can also kind of calculate, because if it was ideal, the Cancer is the fourth house, but it has moved and it has come to the first house. That means it has traveled three houses. That means it's 6 hours later. We can actually have some kind of a time reference. So now Cancer moved and moved 6 hours later. It was found on the first house. At that time, event happened, some baby is born, or you were born, or whatever. So now the impact of the Cancer is on your personality, how you reflect. Because it's Cancer. Cancer is sensitivity, motherly, caring. It's not really motherly. Don't take it as an offense, but you are like a caring person. Oh, take care of yourself. Watch out. It's raining out. Get an umbrella. That's how you'll be reflected. People will see you as very, and just if you happen to have a moon inside, you'll be even more. You will be that sign becomes even stronger, because it's the ascendant is the beginning of life, it's the beginning of the chart. The moon, any planet that falls into the first house becomes the strongest planet, no matter which one. Okay, even in the weaker planets, if they were fallen and they happen to be in the first house, they gain some strength. So always, even some very negative things that are happening in the chart will become very strong. Okay, in certain positions, and some strong positions will become weaker. This is why how you have ups and downs, spiky events. Things are happening, things are not happening. So that gives you a much activity in the life. Okay, so it's almost like 1.5 hours, so I will stop it right there. It's just kind of browsing into the subject and just touching upon, going back and forth. Next Tuesday, we'll start off with one thing and we'll finish that one. So it's the approach is more structured. We'll talk about symbols and things like that. But now you have like a general ballpark kind of a concept of what it looks like and how we can, and none of the terminology exists in today's or just previous lecture. So it makes life easier. Okay, so we'll go into what is these red and blue lines are, and what things we start to dissect everything. So hopefully it should make sense. And thank you very much for your presence. I see that most of the people have gone onto YouTube. It's easier to remain in the but gives me the ability to sign up to Zoom. But this is where you can ask questions. So it's up to you. You want to come into the Zoom session, or you want to go to YouTube. YouTube is just, you can just walk around, listen, and you don't have to worry about interruptions and all that. All right, thank you very much. And with that, I need your feedback, please. There's a chat, something, yes. Okay, everybody saying thank you, and okay, great, thank you very much, and I'll see you next Tuesday then. Hopefully, yeah, everything goes well. Thank you. Take care.